Well, hey, friends. Welcome to the Fullest Life Podcast. I'm your host, Vita Tucker. It is a wonderful Sunday's evening. I am here in Iowa. I'm in a little bitty town in Iowa. It's a wonderful night full of joy and peace. Beautiful weather today, 50 degrees, which is really great for Iowa. Um, but I said, let me check in with my Fullest Life friends and let's talk about some stuff. So, for those of you who are joining us for the very first time, welcome. This is the Fullest Life Podcast. It's a podcast dedicated to women. It is dedicated to us living our fullest life. And it doesn't mean that we don't have problems and trials and situations and all of that, ladies. It just means that we are endeavoring to live our fullest life. And so I want to welcome all our new people who are tuning in, and those of you who've been with me for a while, whether you've been with me for the last 2 weeks, the last 6 months, or since May of 2020, welcome. Thank you. I just count it an honor every time that you all tune in and we have this time to share and to, talk and everything. So today, ladies, I want to talk about boundaries and how important it is to set boundaries in our lives. Now, here's the thing. Boundaries get a really bad rap in our world. You say set a boundary and people like, oh, I have boundaries. They're like, oh, here you come. You so extra. All of those things. But I don't, boundaries are not extra. Now, here's what I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about you setting some kind of rule that people, if somebody come in my house and they step on my carpet, then I can't talk to them more. If you don't move your hair to the left, then we can't be friends. I can't be friends with somebody whose hair is orange. I mean, those are not boundaries. That's just foolery. Okay? Let's get that out of the way. Boundaries are those things in life that help us in our relationship. They help set, I don't know, what's the better word for boundaries? But it helps set a standard for our relationships so that everybody knows how to move in the relationship. So I like to think of it like this. Have you ever played the game of Uno? The card game, yes. And you're playing Uno, typically happens with young people. You're playing, y'all having a good time, but they start losing, right? And out of nowhere, they come up with all these rules. They start like putting stuff on top of something and this on top of you. Like, what you doing? What's going on? And they're like, well, you can put a double on top of another double and then reverse it back and put a double. Well, when did we decide you could do that? Oh, you could always. No, you couldn't. You couldn't always pull out that little piece of paper, the rules. It's never been in there. And they just make it up as like, that's a boundary. So when I play games, I want to know the rules up front. How are we doing this? What are we doing? What's the rules? Let's state it up front so we can all be on the same page. You know what? We talk about it at our church. We talk about the spiritual principle of agreement. Crown our lives with peace. You got peace in your life when there is agreement, when there's a boundary, and everybody understands the boundaries that come with the relationships. So when we talk about boundaries, I'm not just talking about in a dating relationship, because people think about that, but it's in dating, it's in marriage, it's in families, it's in friendships, it's on your job. There are boundaries at the grocery store. There's boundaries in the Walmart. There's boundaries when you drive, which leads me to me breaking a boundary, y'all. So there is nothing I talk about, y'all, that I don't go through and I have to experience it before I get to tell you all about it. So 2 days ago, I'm driving down the highway, right? And this is when this thought came. I'm talking to the Lord about what I'm podcast, and boundaries came. And I'm like, boundaries. Yes. Boundaries are important. I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about the boundaries on the podcast. Then I'm like, well, I might as well shoot this podcast now. So I'm driving down the highway, right? I have my phone in my hand, y'all, right in front of the steering wheel. I am talking. I'm doing like I'm doing now, telling y'all welcome to the fullest life. And I'm just doing my whole spiel and everything. And then I say, and boundaries are to protect us. Immediately, crystal clear, y'all, I hear the Lord say, like the boundary you're breaking. Oh, my. I had to immediately, I still have the video, you all. In the video, I said, yes, like the boundary I'm breaking. And I clicked the video off. Because driving, taping a video is breaking a boundary. I'm not supposed to be driving holding the phone. Now, sometimes, I have my little clip that I can put the phone in and stuff to hold it up there, but I didn't. I had my one hand on the steering wheel, the other hand holding the phone, and it was construction. It was construction on this highway. To add to it, not that it made it right if it wasn't construction, but it was construction. They had these makeshift walls and stuff, concrete walls and all kind of little barriers and cones up, and I'm driving trying to record a podcast. Now, if I had hit that concrete wall, several things could have happened. I could have tore my car up, which would have cost me a lot of money. I could have hit somebody else trying to avoid it and swerved over into the other lane. I could have killed myself or someone else while I'm driving down the highway holding the phone, breaking a boundary. And I could say, if it happened, if I kept and had overruled what I heard and kept on and hit something, I couldn't have been like, oh, woe is me. What happened? I was just trying to record a podcast. That's what I'm supposed to do. I was just doing what I'm supposed to do. No, I am supposed to record a podcast, but I'm not supposed to record it going down the highway holding the phone in my hand. No, I overstepped a boundary. And if I overstep a boundary, it leads me into a precarious situation. Many things could happen. And that's how it is in our lives. If we don't set boundaries in our relationships, it leads to rough times. It leads to people getting hurt. It leads to relationships falling apart. It costs us something. Sometimes we don't recover. It takes us years to recover. If you think about it, I can think about relationships I had when I was younger. Oh my gosh. I didn't set any boundaries. I was just so giddy, oh yay, he's so great. He's so great. First of all, he wasn't that great. Secondly, I should have set a boundary. And I didn't set a boundary. I think about friendships. Where I had set a boundary, and then people come and try to push your boundary and push you back and push you this side and trying to go around your boundary and under your boundary and over your boundary. And no, I had to end those relationships. I had to let them go because they weren't healthy relationships. When we talk about boundaries, I'm talking about things that are not healthy for us. Things that we should have in place to protect ourselves, to cover ourselves, to cover people around us. I have boundaries in relationship with my son. He's 25 and, I love him, but we still have boundaries. He better not walk up in my house and start cussing like he owns something. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. Even when I was staying with him for a while, it's his house, but we have boundaries. We have boundaries that extended since he was a little kid. So he can't come in the door and start cussing because hey, whoa, what's going on here? And he already knew there's a boundary there. I might be grown, but that's still my mom. I can't disrespect her like that. And so when we don't set boundaries in our relationship, it leads to disrespect, which leads you hurt. It leads to people usurping authority over you, which leads you hurt, or you pushing past other people. Like when we tend to ignore. None of us is perfect, y'all. We do it too. We try to push past somebody's boundary. And then because we think they should do this. Oh, this is what you should do. So I'm going to push you. No, there's a boundary there. There's places that we shouldn't be involved in people's life. There's things we shouldn't say in people's life, things that we shouldn't do. And so my goal and my heart, I tell you every time, is that we live our fullest life. And living our fullest life means, ladies, that we have to set boundaries. We got to put on our big girl panties, take off them little girl underwear with the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on them, and put your big girl underwear and set some boundaries for your life. Don't be living life like all willy-nilly, like, oh, whatever happens, I just want the world to be free and happy, kumbaya. No, kumbaya, yes, come by here, Lord, and help me set these boundaries so that I can progress and the people around me, we can have healthy relationships. I was just recently talking to the young lady, and she comes from a family with a lot of girls, right? And I was like, why is it that I see you all and you all are always like you're getting along, you're not having problems and arguments and stuff? And she said, because we have boundaries. She said, my mom taught us to have boundaries. When you are having, we know when to say stuff to people, how to say stuff to people, how not to be disrespectful, and we know what we're not supposed to speak to when it comes to other people's lives. We have boundaries. Bless my socks off. I was like, man, I love that. And I was like, and you all honor the boundaries? She said, yeah, we do. We were taught to honor boundaries. That's something we have to learn, people. We have to learn to honor boundaries. That's not just in our relationships with family. That's not just in our marriages and our dating relationships. That's on our jobs. That's in the grocery store. That's driving down the highway. In every area of our lives, there are boundaries. And when we fail to meet up or we overlook the boundary, we go around the boundary, we push the boundary, we set ourselves up and others to be hurt. And I don't want to see any of us hurt. I only want the best for us. I only want the best for us. And so we got to do it. Now, it starts with little things, right? It starts with little things and we think it's like, oh, that's no big deal. I can do that. I was in the Target the other day and there's a line, right? The self-checkout. We're in the self-checkout. Now, there's a long line in this self-checkout. I had to stand in it and everybody else did. But there came a group of people up off the side. And I guess they just felt like the long line was inconvenience for them. And so they didn't want to follow the boundary that had already been set. So they tried to ease in from the side. When you try to break a boundary, it causes conflict, right? So immediately people are saying, oh, I'm sorry, the line is back there. Yeah, the line's back there. More than one person. And they're like, oh, I thought it was 2 lines. No, you didn't. You never thought it was 2 lines, but you was going to make a line because you didn't care and overlook the feelings of the rest of the people who stand in line. You just wanted what you wanted. And so eventually they end up moving because it was so many people. Now, if that could have turned out some really ugly ways, we see it all the time on the news and in the social media and on TikTok and Twitter, people breaking out in fights in stores and all this kind because they overstep a boundary. It starts in the small stuff and it goes and keeps on going. And then we just bring it into every area of our lives. The Bible says it's the small foxes that spoil the vine. That means the little things that we do in our daily lives that build up to mess us up in the long run. And you know what? Now, Jesus had boundaries, and y'all know I'm going to talk about Jesus, okay? Because that's one of my boundaries. The Fullest Life podcast, I'm a Christian. I'm going to talk about Jesus. And then someone told me again recently, like, if you keep talking about Jesus, they're going to cancel you. You can't cancel what you didn't start. So I'm talking about Jesus. But Jesus had boundaries, right? So sometimes Jesus would go, and if you read the word of God, sometimes he would go off and he wouldn't go special places. And he'd take 3 people with him, Peter, James, and John, right? The other 9 disciples, he was like, hold up, we'll be back. They can't get mad, and they could get mad, but the boundary had already been set. Sometimes Jesus would say, I'm going to get away by myself. He's going to go talk to the Father. He goes to the island. He goes off way to another island, goes away to the mountains, wherever he's going by himself. He wasn't so overly concerned about their feelings that he said, but if anytime you need me, if you just want to say something, just come run up in here and interrupt me because my boundaries don't mean anything. No, we are so consumed with people pleasing, that we end up hurting ourselves because we lower our boundaries to please others. And it's like a floodgate. And then once it starts, it's a mess. It is running into that concrete wall, and somebody is hurt, something's destroyed, it's costing us relationships, it's costing us something in life. So let's make some boundaries, you know. And I'm not saying it has to be, don't go over there, and come up with something crazy. So, there's a whole all kinds of things online, about boundaries. And there's a great book called Set Boundaries. Oh my gosh. Can I think who wrote the book? It's great though. It's called Boundaries. And it talks about setting boundaries in all areas of your life. But we have to set some boundaries. And then we have to be respectful, you all, of other people's boundaries. If we're not respectful of other people's boundaries, it's hard for you to say you love somebody when you disrespect them. It's hard to say, I care about you, but I'm going to push past your boundary on every opportunity. That's just not love. And that's not who we are. We are women who live in our fullest life. And what we do is we love. And part of our love is we set a boundary and we keep a boundary. Not just for ourselves, but for others. So, I tell you every week, I love you. I tell you every week to live full so that you can die empty. Live your best life, and your best life is knowing that boundaries are necessary. They are there to protect you. Every rule that's ever been made is because somebody messed up somewhere and a rule had to be put in place. A boundary is set up so that we all are playing from the same game. We are playing this card game called life. We know what the rules are. We know what the rules are in our relationship with other people, and nobody ends up hurt. We end up having a really good time and enjoying life. So, I love you all. I hope you live full so that you can die empty. Have a super fantastic week, and we will talk to you, later. I don't know when later is, but it'll be later. Take care, guys. Love you.